What are y'all doing, Barbara and Bill?
Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel and welcome back to another video. So you guys, it's time to get this garden fall ready. I actually started out this video with the hopes and dreams of moving this greenhouse. If I look at my greenhouse now, it's always served me well in this spot. However, it does tend to cut off some of my growing space. And I have another perfect space for this on the other side of the garden. So what I am going to do, obviously not today in this video, is we are going to eventually end up moving the greenhouse. I have these tendencies like my grandparents to see things and think, oh, I really need to do this. I kind of squirrel a lot. So I did notice that this growing bed back here had weeds. And so I wanted to take some time to come in and weed. However, this is a Saturday morning and I forgot to take off all of my jewelry from teaching my Titus 2 women's group. So I was coming out all blinged up in the garden and I thought I would take a few minutes to get all that off. These are some of my special pieces, so I'm just going to take those off. And yes, I did the group in my jammies, but they were clean. Because I wasn't teaching today. In the month of September, I have other ladies come in and teach so that I'm able to have at least 1 month off. And yes, I gotta have a praise break in the middle of the garden, live that best life. And the little bell you hear in the background would just be the pitter-patter of Queenie's little feet. So I noticed I'm having issues. So all of my gardeners, would you help me? My green beans, my bush beans, always seem to get diseased. The leaves and then the beans seem to be diseased. So I went ahead and just pulled them out. I didn't want to eat the beans with the spots on them, and so I'm just pulling out. Now this, my neighbor, this is her fence, and she has a lot of vining plants, flowers. And what they end up doing is they grow through the fence and end up attaching to anything on my side. So I try to not bother the integrity of her flowers, but when they get attached to my things in my garden, I do snip them or pull them. And so this is where I have those cinder blocks back there where I put those marigolds. We actually have had marigolds for a good amount of months now. But again, like I said, it's getting time to get all those out. And so I'm trying to bring some life, even if it's just, in aesthetics to how the garden looks. It is getting cold and snakes and different things try to take their rest in under areas and things. And I don't want to run into any issues in my garden. So I am going to clean out this area. You'll see Jack and I, this is really what this video is about. It's really cleaning out several areas. And then we are going to replant some plants. We are going to plant some fall plants. And again, there's Gwen. So here I am, y'all. I got these pajamas for the pajama party at the Woman Evolve conference. And they are too big. But I got them anyway. I wasn't too keen about going out in my jammies. However, when in Rome, so you'll see Jackson pulling out, he's getting some of the weeds for me and just putting them in the trash bag. Now, we do not have refuse pickup. Like, we don't have, you can put stuff on the side of the road and they'll come and pick it up for you. We have our garbage cans and our recycling bins, but we do not have yard pickup, and we don't have furniture pickup, not in the place where I live. We don't have that. I do know some of you do. We do have a dump, but it is not close to our house. And we only have, I think, two free dump days a year. And this is not one of them. So if you'll notice, Mama's running around, but then you see little other people running around, and that would be Gwen and Cash. My sister needed a sitter for Cash today, and he makes his way in the garden. Get out of the garden, Bill. And they're so tiny still, they can fit through the gates, through the holes on the cattle panel to get into the garden. We don't mind them coming in the garden. We have garden dogs, not guard dogs, but hey, we live in our best life, right? So down here, there are a few prickers, and I don't want Jackson to get his hand pricked, so I'm in here trying to pull out what I can. And at times, you'll see me kind of be very gentle-like, just because when I'm down there grabbing, I'm grabbing everything. But those prickers hurt, even the little ones. I'm like, what in the world? So I'm just out here, like I said, cleaning out this garden space. It'll get a little better as the video goes on. All right, so here's where we've made some decisions. I needed to find some additional grow space, and these tomato plants, there were about 3 tomato plants. These were our tomato plants that really just, these were determinate, I believe. They didn't grow out of, crazy. They just grew where they were. So they weren't really doing a ton. And so what we did was we just went ahead and pulled these. They weren't, producing a ton. We wanted to keep our pepper plant because our pepper is still growing. All of our peppers are still producing. And so Jackson was tasked with pulling out the pepper plants. We had tomato cages in here, but we're going to totally move tomatoes next year. We will not plant them just out in the open. They will only be planted where there's cattle panel because our tomatoes just went crazy. We had a very, very good tomato harvest, but they just went crazy all over the place. And so I don't want that again this next year. So we're going to totally move their placement. We also noticed that the cages did not do a lot to support the weight, especially of the indeterminate tomatoes. And so we're going to use those. I think I'm going to use those tomato cages for cucumbers and pole beans is what I think I'm going to do. Because right now I have pole beans growing up over the trellis, but they are very slow. And we don't get the best water pressure on that side of the garden. So I'm going to put tomatoes there because tomatoes traditionally don't love a lot of water. And so if I can successfully make that transition, I should have very good tomatoes without a ton of disease until later in the season. And I should be able to get plenty of cucumbers who seem to like a lot of water and beans. And I'm putting them totally in a different spot. I am going to give beans another go to see if I can get them to grow. It's very difficult at the moment to try to find beans. I ordered several beans, some of the ones that vine and hang down, like the asparagus beans and the red runner beans, and they've canceled my order several times because they didn't have them. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this. It took me to watch this video, but Jackson keeps putting something in his pocket. I think those are little tomatoes that we did not have time to pick off because we didn't see a ton on there. So he's just picking them and putting them in his pocket, and he will, of course, put them in the harvest basket when he gets back in the house. He goes in several times to do something, and I think it is to empty his pockets. But he's just taking garden shears and he is trimming off the tomato that actually ended up growing on the pepper cage, because we did put one of these peppers in a cage. My children, lots of people comment quite a lot about how helpful they are. This is not natural behavior. This is taught behavior and behavior that has been learned. I want my children to know lots of things. I don't want my girls just to know how to clean and cook. I want the boys to know as well. And of course, you see the little ruckus going on in the background. That is Barbara and Bill back there doing the things. And so I've taught them how to grow and how to plant and all of that. They didn't love it.
Queen, calm down, Queen. And you will know to not let anybody be doing the humpback dance with you. Here.
So we're out here now. I've gotten most of the beds kind of cleaned out that I was working on cleaning out. And we're planting cabbages in this particular bed. This is the first bed in the garden. And I am going to have Mr. Jerome come in and replace this bed and another one because I am noticing some dry rot happening. And I don't want that in my garden. And another thing that I'm noticing, and you probably are as well, is my soaker hoses aren't the best. So I'm looking into some other type of irrigation. The one thing that bothers me is I do have sprinklers, but I think, okay, we put in sprinklers. They do great sprinkling from the top, but what about getting down to the root? So I'm looking for some different tubing to, irrigation system. But for now, we can just move these hoses around as we need to, or we leave them on extra long so that they soak the majority of the area and it gets permeated to the other areas. But in the spring, I am going to use this for a cucumber and bean bed. And again, I'm going to be growing over the tomato cages. So I'm hopeful that it will work out just fine for us. That, always goals. I'm also going to get some garden pins to pin down the hose close to the root of the plant. What I was going to say is I am always cautious about, how much I put into, the watering of the garden, that type of thing. We tried a different irrigation system and that we didn't have enough pounds per inch or PSI to force it out. And then when I use the soaker hose, the sprinklers on my tomatoes, it gets the leaves wet, and tomatoes don't like their leaves wet. So here's where we cleaned out those tomato plants. We had enough to put about 3 cabbages in there. And of course, we left our pepper plant because the pepper is doing well. So I'm going to be doing a total redesign of the garden. I don't want to pull everything out because it took us enough time to get it all in. But I can redesign around what we have going on already. And so I think it's going to be okay. My children and I make a good team. Sister's working, which is why she's not in the garden. She works on Saturday mornings, and sometimes Saturday mornings is all I have to work in my garden like this. So I have to get it in where I can fit it in. And so Jackson is tasked with helping me because sister is working. She works every single Saturday of the month, and she has her Sundays off because she wants to go to church. And so that works out. And she works very early in the morning, so she would miss church if she had to work on Sundays. So there that is, you guys. We just did a little planting around, and here's where I cleaned out that bed. I still do have the back portion of this, the weeds to get out, but of course now you can at least see the cinder blocks, and we're planting collards, kale, and a few cabbage that we had left back here. We're hopeful. I did notice after I'd come back from a work trip that we did have something eating the leaves, and so I sprayed them. I did do the diatomaceous earth with the ants, and that seemed to very much get rid of the ant problem. Although I do need to go over and trim down some of the weeding where that has grown up, and see how we're moving the soaker hoses to be closer to the root of the plant. That's what we can do right now in this area. Once I get that greenhouse moved, which was the whole purpose of this video that never did happen, I'll be able to gather or gain that much. It's probably about 2 to 4 feet of growing space in that area, and that'll help us. But thank you guys so much for stopping by. Like the video, share, comment, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.